Hei vaan ja tervetuloa tänne jokaviikkoiselle sunnuntailuennolle. Ja meillä on tänään erityisvierailijana Lotta Arbman Ruotsista. Kerrotaan kohta vähän tarkemmin vielä, mutta tarkistan tähän alkuun suomen kielellä, että saadaan käännösasiat kuntoon. Eli en tiedä, oletteko käyttäneet aikaisemmin tässä Zoomissa tätä käännösominaisuutta, mutta tässä näkyy nyt ohjeet. Eli jos teillä on älypuhelin käytössä tai tabletti, niin siinä on tämmöinen 3 pistettä ja sen takaa löytyy sitten se käännös interpretation ja sieltä valitaan kieli Finnish ja pääsette kuulemaan halutessanne sitten suomenkielistä tulkkausta. Muutenhan puhutaan tässä englanniksi. Ja sitten jos teillä on tietokone, niin siellä on tuonne maapallon kuva, niin siitä kun klikkaa, niin sieltä tulee ne kielivaihtoehdot näkyviin ja Finnish kielen takaa sitten päästä kuulemaan sitä suomen kielen tulkkausta. Ja jos tulee jotain ongelmia siinä käännöksessä, niin laittakaa ihmeessä viestiä, niin koitetaan täältä sitten saada se kuntoon. So a very warm welcome to Lotta from Sweden. And I would just like to say a few words about Lotta before she starts. So Lotta is the National Coordinator of Brahmakumaris in Sweden, Stockholm. And she has been there, if I've understood correctly, since '88. And so teaching and studying Raja Yoga meditation. She's also working as a secretary for Spirit of Humanity Forum, which is an international forum for leaders who are interested in humanitarian ways of thinking. So this is an introduction of Lotta. Also, I have the privilege to know her personally. She has visited Finland many times and she has been an inspiration for many of our activities here in Finland also. She has a very light and entertaining way of looking at things, and still she has such depth and wisdom in her understanding that she's really working as a pioneer in this area of self-exploration. So a very warm welcome to Lotta, and we will have the topic, and then in the end there will be also question and answer session. So if you have any questions, anything that come during the presentation, please write them to the chat box and they will get answered in the end. So welcome, Lotta.
Thank you very much. You can see me. I can also see myself. Scary. And I will start with opening up my, I will show this one. I think I just do like that. Doinks. You can see. And I will see if I can also pin my video, or because I understand that the videos should not be visible, right? I mean the different, so you have to say what you see, because I only see my face now.
Yes, we see perfectly. There is a video. We also see your face in the small picture.
Okay.
So it is
very good. Excellent. So welcome to my favorite topic. And I was just sitting here a couple of hours before actually and changing the language on my presentation. I've been using this presentation in Swedish and in Danish, and now it's a turn for English. And when I was going through this presentation, I felt a little bit embarrassed, to be honest, because, you know, these are things you don't learn it overnight. And I felt, wow, this is all for me. So let's see. It's probably you recognize yourself as well. But self-respect, I feel, is a necessity of life because it is the basis for harmony in relationships and lack of self-respect is the basis for the biggest conflicts, the biggest violence in the world. So let us look at how I'm thinking, why I'm saying that. I start with a beautiful picture from Iceland, because this is nature, and nature has a quality of self-respect automatically. If you go in the forest and you can find the most beautiful flowers deep in the forest, they will unfold their best even if no one comes to look at them, which is very different from how we human beings often are. You know, we often need an audience to show our best. But I feel to be at my best, no matter who is in front of me, that is a matter of self-respect. And just see this simple image is from the city of Stockholm. And on this boring wall, you find the most beautiful decoration of a branch of leaves. And it's just amazing when you look at details like this. And again, I'm feeling, you know, growing in the boring city, which is hard, harsh and dark. And then you find this beauty. And then I feel again, it's the natural quality of self-respect that nature has in it. And we are part of nature. And so what I'm trying to say is that actually within us is the potential to a natural self-respect. Here's the contrast. Here we see the Twin Towers on 9/11, now quite a few years ago, but I think this image has been imprinted in all of our minds. And you can probably, all of you, say where exactly you were and what you were doing when you got the news and when you saw these pictures on the television. So why am I bringing this up now? Because I feel this is a symbol for lack of self-esteem, lack of self-respect. So when there is a lack of self-respect, there is the basis for conflict. And I feel all kind of terrorism, at the root of it is hurt feelings, very deep hurt feelings of human dignity that has been trampled over. And what we can see that terrorism is not a phenomena that was born out of itself. Terrorism is not a new thing. In whole history, you find this kind of pattern where people want to give, you know, to really give a blow to other people. But the reason for that is not that some people are evil or because they are mentally ill. It is because often a very deep-seated bitterness that has been planted and then been underlined by actions, how we treat each other. So I'll go a little bit further. Here is a quote from Daddy Yankee, and many of you probably already know who is Daddy Yankee. She has been a lighthouse for the Brahma Kumaris for many, many years. She has been involved with the BK since the very beginning, and she turned 104 last year. And she actually left last year. We say that the soul leaves the body to take another part, play another part. And she left like that 1 year ago, but she was 104 years and she was active until the very end. And here is a quote from her, one of many, many quotes that holds a lot of wisdom. And this relates to self-respect. And I will come back to this quote at the end of this slideshow. So she's saying, courage is meeting my own negativity without guilt or feeling worthless. So take responsibility for changing it. To start this process, I must first recognize my innermost self. By thinking deeply about what I love most in life, I'm given a glimpse of my own innate goodness. Innate goodness means, the goodness that you were born with. It's part of you. If I build on that, I will gently be shown my compassionate nature. So I will start to see my beautiful self and the compassionate self that has a big heart. The courage to let go of unwanted thoughts and feelings will develop when I accept that my divine elevated self is at the heart of who I am, meaning who I already am. So we are so used to looking at ourselves in a mediocre way, or a small way, a very negative way actually, that it's a shift that has to be made to recognize what is behind the weaknesses that we give so much attention to. So here I'm using the image of a walnut, and it's a nice symbol for what can happen to us. And I think it happens to all of us to a certain degree, some more, some less. But this is typical for a state of lack of self-knowledge, which makes you fragile. When we don't have proper self-knowledge, we become a little bit lost and we become fragile, sensitive, and then we build a hard shell around ourselves. So walnut is, you need to crack it open. It's quite hard. But when it opens, it's actually very difficult to open a walnut and keep the nut in one whole piece. It usually cracks in pieces. That vulnerable it is inside. And there's also, you can say, the image of being disorganized. It's a disorder inside, it looks like, at least. And I'm using that image to explain what happens to us when we lack self-respect. And that can show in many different ways. And so I'm making a list of how a lack of self-respect can look like in our behavior and our feelings. And then I will show you the contrast, the same list actually, but from a perspective of having very good level of self-respect. So let's look at this lack of self-respect. So first of all, a lack of self-respect, it creates uncertainty. So with that comes fear. So one way of feeling lack of self-respect, I feel weak and vulnerable and at disadvantage. The underdog, I'm in a bad position. I might compare myself with others as a result of lack of self-respect. I may be worried about not being good enough. I may be easily impressed by positions and roles instead of inner values. So I look up to my boss, I look up to people who have position in the world, and I get impressed by that, or maybe afraid of that, or maybe desire it myself to feel self-respect. I admire and praise talents. It's like looking on the outside, like the walnut is building on the outside. Easily impressed. I might develop violence towards myself. An example of that can be to be available beyond my limits. Because when I'm available and helping people, I get their reassurance, and it becomes a dependency of being reassured. Okay, now I'm good, now I'm okay. So I feel safe when I'm being reassured. I want to prove myself being good, be at service, be of use, but it goes too far. And so many people experience burnout these days. And I think for a big reason for coming into that position is a lack of self-respect. Many would say it's the job demands so much, the workplace demands so much, the boss demands so much. And it's true, these things happen. But also what I have seen and what I experienced myself is that when you lack self-respect and demand is put on you, you don't stand up for yourself. You say, yes, okay, and you just try and run more and more. And that's how you can end up in this situation of burnout. Unable to express my needs. So maybe in front of my boss, I get so impressed by what I feel is an authority that I just abide, and my boss can't know my limits. And so I'm unable to express my real needs. And maybe it can go so far that I don't even know what my needs are. I'm lost when it comes to that. Inferiority complex is an effect of lack of self-respect, feeling threatened and challenged by the strength of others. So when others are very good, I feel threatened, which leads next step to jealousy. And maybe I want to diminish others, making fun of others. It's a very common thing that happens on a daily basis in workplaces. People joke with each other, and sometimes it looks innocent, but reality is often that we try to diminish each other because we feel weak ourselves. And another expression of having bad self-respect is being a poor loser, taking it very seriously to lose, and difficult to accept that somebody else was winning and I was losing. Here's the second page. It's only 2 pages, but it continues here, a second page. So when I lack self-respect, my heart becomes small. I only have room for a few. Intolerance is a result of self-respect, and that means also that I'm often afraid of what's different from me. So we can see the whole problem with racism, and all our history is full of being afraid of certain people or certain groups of people. Concerned about how others perceive me. Biased means I'm colored by what I hear. I'm not neutral. And I think I can become very egocentric. When people speak, I always think they talk about me. And if somebody says something, I take it very personally. I don't have that, what would you say, neutral distance to myself. And lack of self-respect also means easily to go into imagination, to inflate situations and spread it to others. To be a perfectionist, to be obsessed with order can be also actually rooted in a deep lack of self-respect, trying to find security on the outside. And that is also the continuation of that is need for control. Things must be kept in a certain way, otherwise I get disturbed. Overcautious, I don't dare to take risks. Or I must be right. To be wrong is perceived as a defeat. So this is a typical expressions of lack of self-respect. And now we can turn these around and see what happens with exactly the same things when we have a healthy level of self-respect. And I'm using the image of the peach to explain what self-respect is, because the peach has, you can say, symbol is that the stone inside is very solid, doesn't break, and it's difficult to break the stone of a peach. So it represents a very solid self-awareness. I'm aware of myself. And that means I'm aware of my strengths, and I'm also aware of my weaknesses. And I don't worry about my weaknesses. So because I have this solid self-awareness, means self-respect comes from that, then I can be soft on the outside. And it's easy for people to approach me. While the walnut situation, when I'm in a walnut stage, it's difficult to approach someone with this hard outside, and you're afraid, you don't know what's behind that hard shell. But the peach personality is, you see what you get, and it's nice to be with someone who has a good level of self-respect. Because self-respect does not at all mean ego. So when we say that someone has a big head, is big-headed, that actually means when you lack self-respect and you compensate. And that's difficult to deal with. And someone who is big-headed, have a big ego, they're also very sensitive to criticism, they can't be questioned, etc. So it means that's the walnut. While the peach has a deep sense of humility because he or she has self-respect. So the respect for the self, it creates an inner security. And so it's natural to feel strong, confident, and on an equal footing to others. I don't compare myself, but I feel equal. And so I'm anchored and secure in who I am on the inside. I don't build on the outside. I don't worry about my looks. I don't worry about my impression that I give, what others think of me, because I know who I am on the inside. I see others as fellow human beings, not as positions, which is very different. And I value inner qualities. I appreciate other people's qualities and strengths, but I'm not impressed, which is different. When you're impressed, you actually bow down in your attitude and make yourself smaller in comparison to the other. You're aved, you're colored. But no, you can value, you can appreciate, but you still have your own dignity, and you don't feel that your own sense of self is threatened at all. To understand and respect my boundaries, that is also an expression of having a good level of self-respect. And that would also mean that I would seek balance, which is a contrast to the one who is not putting boundaries and being violent to the self, becoming available more than actually even the physical body can take it. But if I have respect for my boundaries, I seek balance, and I can function much longer. I respect my needs, and I can express them. So that is self-esteem. I'm not threatened by the greatness or success of others. I appreciate the strengths of others, and I get inspired, but I'm not trying to copy them. I see life as a game, and I shake hand with the winner, so I can accept I lose sometimes, and I shake hand and say, give congratulations to the winner. So it's like a sportsmanship comes from self-respect. I don't know if my picture is obscuring any text, but it says a sense of belonging to everyone. No one is a stranger. So, and I feel secure in myself. I'm not afraid of differences. I don't worry about what others think of me, and I'm impartial. I don't take sides. Because if all belong to me, how can I take sides? No, even if I understand that something has been happening and some people were wrong, But taking side is different, because when you take side, you go against the others. And that's not the spiritual attitude. And spirituality really means being balanced and having deep self-respect. It's nothing mystical at all. When I have self-respect also, I understand that everything is not about me, I'm not self-centered in that way. I can listen to criticism without becoming defensive, because I'm stable. When I have a big ego, means the compensation for a lack of self-respect, then I shake if somebody criticizes me. And maybe they don't even do that, but somebody says something and I easily imagine it's about me and it's criticism, because it's one of my deepest fears. It threatens my existence. Then I become very defensive. But if I have a strong core, like the peach, I understand I can make mistakes. Of course I can make mistakes. I'm just a human being. I'm not the divine. I'm not a god. And so of course I can make mistakes. And then also I can listen to it. But it doesn't mean that I throw my self-respect over my shoulder and think, oh, I'm the worst person in the world. I'm no drama queen in that sense. And for that reason, I'm able to make situations small and not spread them. Something happens, a situation, and maybe it's quite dramatic, but instead of blowing it up, which I do when I have a lack of self-respect, I have the wisdom of making it small in my mind and not talk about it, because then you can finish it quicker. Someone's mistake, something that happened that went wrong. I'm confident that nothing is perfect, so I don't expect perfection. I'm flexible and open to different solutions. There is joy of life and a readiness to take risks. And it's not difficult for me to admit mistakes. I don't have to be right. So, the conclusion of this is that self-respect is based on truth. Truth is a very big word, and in humanity we have been fighting about what is truth, whose truth, who can say what truth is. But I mean the truth that we know about ourselves, when we are honest. So I need self-insight to create self-respect. To dare seeing myself as I am. To dare seeing my situation as it is. Not to blame my dissatisfaction on others or on circumstances. So when I'm able to accept this, I start to gain power. I can influence my own situation. So when I say truth, I mean seeing myself as I am, with my strengths and my weaknesses, my mistakes, but also my good sides. And also to dare seeing my situation as it is without trying to make it into something else. Because often we do that for others, but first we do it for ourselves. We change it up. No, it's not like that. It's like this. You try to make it better because of this fear, which is based on a lack of self-respect. And so he or she should hear this. So now it's very easy to start thinking that someone else who would benefit from understanding this, that I should tell someone else. But that is not true, because it's not my job to change anyone else. So truth is to dare to see oneself without distorting the picture or explaining away. Truth is to be close to reality and to discover the poetry, the beauty of reality. Because reality is not harsh. People often say that reality is very harsh, But I think the harshness or the pain that we sometimes experience when we meet reality is when our illusions crash. So the pain is actually the illusions, not reality. And when we dare to see reality in ourselves as it is, we start to see a lot of beautiful things instead of trying to change it in castles in the air. The reality is much better than our imaginations. So when we can face truth, it liberates us. And it creates a very solid foundation. You don't need to run away anywhere. Because in truth lies also my own beauty, my strength, those great qualities that we seldom see as human beings, because we think to be human is to make mistakes and have weaknesses. So I would like to show now a short film. It's a few minutes, 6 minutes long. And to make it easier to catch the message, I've written already beforehand what it's about. It's called Step into the Circle. And it says that on February the 12th last year, 235 men who were put in prison gathered in the yard at the California maximum security prison to meet a woman who would be asking them if they were ready to face their past with compassion. And so if you think about what I just said about coming close to reality, to see yourself and your situation as it is, that is the doorway to get influence and to find your security, to find your self-respect. So let's look at that. And now is the question how I will get into that. Yeah, they said yes. She asked, "Are you ready to reach this? Are you ready to face your past with compassion?" And they all said yes. So I just want to get out of this full screen. Or maybe I just go to new share. That I will do. I think it's here. Yes. And then I will move this away. Make this bigger. And now start it.
It's time now, everyone. We're gonna do the Compassion Trauma Circle. Is everyone ready to face their past with compassion? Is that a yes?
Yes!
While you were growing up, during your first 18 years of life, if a parent or other adult in the household often or very often would swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or threw something at you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured, step inside the circle. If you often felt that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special, step inside the circle. If your family lived in extreme poverty, step inside the circle. Step inside the circle. Step inside the circle. Step inside the circle.
There is no shame.
There is no shame.
There is no shame.
I'm so good. Good to see you. How are you? Amen. Noel, good to see you. Welcome. I was abused as a young girl. I was beaten by my mother. I was verbally abused by my mother. I was sexually abused by another man. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was a rageaholic. I've driven drunk. I've sold drugs. I was a juvenile delinquent. Probably my story is similar to most of your stories in here. I'm white and I'm female and nothing happened to me. So, I got a get out of jail free card. And so I'm here now because I see myself in every one of you.
I'm a traumatized child, raised by a traumatized child. My mother was traumatized as well as her parents.
Like he said, we wasn't born in the world of being evil people. My mother didn't want me. She hid her pregnancy, and she tried to flush me down the toilet. But as I learned about these things, I always asked myself what was wrong with me.
When I come to the circle and I see everybody else and she's reading off the questions and people stepping in further, and I look at my childhood and I'm like, a lot of these people in this yard are just like me.
There was one step I should have taken that I didn't take, and I saw some of my brothers and my friends take that step, and I felt like such a coward. I wasn't brave enough to be there with them when they took that step. And every round after that, I took the most difficult step.
Our traumas kept us separated. We were all on the circumference, all standing apart. But once we began to acknowledge our traumas publicly, it brought us all closer together.
In prison, you're not supposed to show your weaknesses in prison, though. But to want to do that, to walk in that circle like that, and to take each step forward was a reminder to ourselves that we still have a humanity and we worthy to be loved, though. Most people on the outside don't understand it. We want to change so we can re-enter society better than what we left it.
And I think one of the things that when you was yelling at no shame and you had us yelling it out, it was freeing us too. And it was a point to where when I was looking at that and we was all looking at it in a circle, you can hear that echo, no shame. And that was very powerful. Especially coming from a little lady like you.
I'm 76 years old. I've seen a lot. I don't like talking. I like to meet people that understand what's happening without words, and you're one of them. Today has been one of the best days I had in my whole entire life since I've been out here these 40 years.
Your true spirits are not violent. Your true spirits are magnificent.
Let's see what happens. Maybe it's behind here. Okay, here it is. So I see that time really flies very quickly. So I think I will skip. I wanted to explain a little bit about trauma, but I can do that some other time. But what I wanted to that's why I feel this subject is so deep, and self-respect is not it's not topic. It's not something that it's not a luxury. It's really a question of survival, and it's a question of the contrast between harmony and violence. And so she was asking these questions when they were stepping into the circle, if they had been hit, if they had been abused, if they had been slapped, if they had been treated very badly. So you can imagine what happens to someone who is treated like that. It really undermines self-respect. But the last question I thought was capturing everything. She said, if you often felt that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special. So that's what it's all about. That's why it's about self-respect. Here I was just capturing what they were saying. One was his mother tried to flush him down the toilet when he was small, like these stories, you can hardly believe it. And then the old man said, I'm 76 years old, I've seen a lot. You understand what is going on here. So today is one of the best days I had in my whole entire life. It's just so emotional when you see this. So it all comes back now to work on my self-respect. I need to understand, who am I? I really have to explore this question and not just continue living with the programming that I have been having in this life, this life I'm living now, what I remember from myself. But I have to go deeper than that. Not just, you can look back at your childhood, but actually it really reveal to you who you are. You have to look from spiritual perspective. And so this image that we are using, some of you would be knowing this, you've already taken the course maybe, but in the Brahma Kumaris, we always come back to this notion of soul consciousness, to start becoming aware that I'm a spiritual being and I live in the physical world. I'm on a journey in the physical world. And the relationship with my body is that I'm the caretaker of my body. This is the building I live in, my house. But it's also my horse. I ride this horse every day. And I started to think that I am this, but I'm not. I'm something that goes on and that existed before this came to existence. So goodness is our true nature. And when the soul, means the self, is full, it means that my true nature is being fully expressed. And the true nature that we say is peace, purity, love, happiness, and wisdom. That's the foundation. And from that springs a beautiful personality. And we will all be different, but we all have the same base. And so, coming back to what Daddy Yankee was saying in the beginning, courage is meeting my own negativity without guilt or feeling worthless. She's talking about how to build self-respect. And actually it shouldn't be written so take, it should say to take responsibility for changing it. That's courage. To start this process, I must first recognize my innermost self. And by thinking deeply about what I love most in life, what I value, I'm given a glimpse of my innate, permanent goodness. If I build on that, I will gently be shown my compassionate nature. The courage to let go of unwanted thoughts and feelings will develop when I accept that my divine elevated self is at the heart of who I am. So in the film, it was dramatic because you saw people in a prison, but just as they spoke, we can relate to that, being in a physical prison or not. I think we all sometimes feel that we are in personal prisons in life too, and we have that same need. So I would like to close with giving you a tip. So if you have a mobile, you can take a picture of this. These are 2 classes that are fantastic, and it's about building self-respect. She's so logical, and she gives very good tips how to work. And so one is value and respect yourself. Don't ask people for it. The other is train the mind to respond, not to react. And if you Google this, you just need to write these themes and B.K. Shivani, and it will come up and you will see more. But I thought 2 is enough to give you a tip of. So that was my presentation, and now I'm happy to take click exit to take questions. There are any?
Yes, thank you so much, Lotta. This was such an emotional Sunday talk time that it was like really had to hold the tears.
Me too every time.
But very, very beautiful and wonderful. It's a feeling like one has been on a roller coaster ride here and there and getting a lot of insights on the way. So very wonderful how you had put into this short time such really so much wisdom and things to think about. So thank you for that. And there are actually some questions that came earlier. One question is, how can I stop comparing myself to others? This came around the time when you were sharing about jealousy, envy. How to?
Yeah, I think when you have the realization that you do this, that's the most important. And to accept that this is actually what I'm doing, it's not something else that's happening. So that's, you ground yourself when you can see that, I'm comparing myself with others, this is not so good. And so you have to give time to explore who you really are and to get to know yourself. Because when we compare ourselves with others, what we actually are doing, we are trying to find ourselves. And we look for ourselves in others. It might sound funny, but it's like a psychological reflex. And so if you think about it, you are a soul, and you have been looking for yourself for probably a very long time. And so we mirror ourselves in others, but we won't see ourselves. We try to see. So you can only start to see yourself if you give some time for silent reflection. But there is a lot of books out there, but it's easy to get lost in books and theories and ideas. To see the self has nothing to do with all this intellectual work. It's more to be able to open the heart to oneself, and silence is important. And so for meditation, of course, is the doorway. If you haven't already taken the course with the Brahma Kumaris, then I would first of all advise you to do that. And if you have, and you know about the soul, then explore soul consciousness more deeply. There is a lot of resource material out there for doing that. And also you can take help from the center. I hope that was an answer.
Thank you, Lotta. And there's also another question And then somebody was requesting the links. Gitte was requesting the links also. So maybe you can then later also, if you can easily put them in the chat. Then
I can. If I could share with, I mean, I don't know how you could share with people, but I'm happy to share the whole slideshow. I could send the whole slideshow also.
Yeah, that's very good.
In this chat, maybe I can share the links also. I can see if I make this picture. If I make my picture smaller, it doesn't affect you, right?
No, you shouldn't. You can do that. Yeah, and then like if you share the slideshows, then whoever is listening, if you hope to receive the slideshow, because we might not know everybody who's here, most of you maybe have registered, but not everyone. So if you would like the slideshow, please write to helsinki@fi.brahmakumaris.org, and then we will send you the slideshow. But there's another question. This was before the film. So it was so nice that in this, what we saw, it was exactly that childhood thing. So the question is, it was sent before. So isn't it so that self-respect comes from the environment where I grow up and how people around me treat me? Only when I grow up from childhood to adult age, I am able to make the decision to change the pattern. And this, so this is basically about in the childhood, or about the environment where we live, how much is treating. And then the question, and therefore it is easier for others and not so much for others. Do you agree? So if I'm understanding correctly, the question is that for others it's easier to change the patterns than for others. Is it like that? Lotta, sorry, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted, so we can't. Can you unmute? Can you not unmute? Maybe Sanna, sometimes it goes that. Now it's on.
Now it works. I'm looking for the question in the chat that you were reading, but I can't see it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It should be, it has been sent to everyone. It's from Santeri.
My chat is empty, so maybe
Is it?
I think I left and came in again. Something has happened. Anyway, your question, as I understood your question, I understood it that for some it's different for different people how to work with this. It's easier for some to heal their self-respect and more complicated for some to heal their self-respect. Was it that the kind of question?
That's how I understood.
And that's true. And so we're all different. And so yes, for some it's more complicated, but then one has to do more work. And that's just how it is. That one can't, that's why it's so important not to compare with others, just to embrace my own situation, whatever it is. The reward will be huge. And there will be work, but also when I do my work, there will be so many times I experience the reward, so many times I will feeling very rich and very grateful. So many doors will open. So yeah, I have to focus on myself, really.
Yes, thank you, Lotta. Now the time is running ahead, so we also wanted to have some meditation and some announcements. So if we will have a 5-minute meditation, it's a bit short or can be a bit longer. We will go a little bit past 6, but I'm sure it's fine. And if anybody needs to go, you can go, but it won't be much longer than that, but just some 5 minutes or 7 minutes or something like that. Thank you, Lotta.
So when I want to work on my self-respect, first of all, I have to embrace myself and accept myself and my situation, what I see of myself at the moment. I have to embrace that. That is the first step. And what I might find is that there is a child inside that haven't got much attention for a long time. So I can see myself as my own inner child. And it's very common that we overlook our own inner child and take care of other people's needs first, or even our interest in the world around us comes first. But that inner self has a very truthful understanding of self, is very grounded. But if it's overlooked again and again and again, then there is pain. And so when I stop and just start to give a little bit of time for myself and really leave other people outside of that moment or those times with myself, I will start to feel that something inside me is becoming very grateful, because it might be the first time that it's been seen or heard, given attention. So often, just to give a space of silence, just to give quietness, and it doesn't have to be sitting down in a corner. It can even be to go out for a walk, but go alone, go with yourself, and just decide for yourself, I want to connect with myself. I want to connect with my overlooked self. There is usually a wave coming from inside, and it can be very touching. But that self has been waiting for a long time. And it is my first responsibility to take care of myself, to be aware of the real needs of the self. And the real needs are given attention. Harmony starts to be restored. And I start to sense that peace is not only an idea, but it is an experience that comes from inside. I start to feel the conflicts that I've been storing up inside start to subside, they disintegrate. Conflicts are created on the inside because we have an intention on the one hand, but then we go against it. And so this conflict builds up and creates tension. But when I have the intention to start caring for my own self, not getting lost in myself, but caring about those needs. Needs of balance, needs of harmony, and also needs for expression and play. Then other things fall into place. And I come back to myself and to my self-respect. So hold the self with the self. Om Shanti.
Thank you very much, Lotta, for the whole time. It's really amazing how in 1 hour so much has happened. So it's like such a shift. So thank you so much for your time and this presentation and everything you have shared with us today. And we are really hoping that again soon you will come and continue, because I'm sure there is a lot more to share from your side. And now the time ran out too quick.